this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. I am so excited to talk to you all today and incorporate our guest, who is the Theramama herself. And we have not yet had an episode solely focused around self-care. And we could not have a better person for that discussion. So, MacKenzie Bradke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you. So I would love to hear more of your journey. Tell us all some background that is relevant to kind of where you're at today and why self-care is such an important thing for you.
Yeah. How far back should I go? There are many points, as I'm sure other people would agree. There are many points throughout my life that self-care either was or wasn't working for me. Mm-hmm. But where should I start? I think the most relevant one is almost 8 years ago, my daughter was born and we adopted her. So there was all of that infertility stuff that was going on. So lots of self-care there. Yeah. After she was born, and I went back to work after my maternity leave, after a couple months of working, I ended up in the hospital with 3 doctors telling me they didn't know what was wrong with me. I had a cold that I just could not get rid of. And I've never been in an ambulance until then.
Oh my goodness.
It was insane. Yeah. I couldn't breathe. I was coughing all the time. It was awful. Mm-hmm. And part of that was because my job was not private practice at the time. They were working me
to the bone.
Yes. And then I was trying to be like the perfect mom because I wanted this baby so bad. Mm-hmm. And we tried for 8 years and we couldn't, and we adopted her and she's here and I have to be the perfect mom. And now I know there is no such thing.
Right.
And I did not. So I was every little ounce of energy I had, I was making her baby food, and she's maybe 9 months old at the time. Mm-hmm. Not even 9 months old. And so I ended up in the hospital and my husband said, you can't go back to that job. And I knew he was right. And I had been thinking about it myself. So that's what led me back to private practice. I had done it part-time before that. And so then now she's going to be 8 in October. So the journey of motherhood isn't always one that I enjoy. And that's a hard thing to admit. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I have to admit that because other people are thinking it and feeling it, and they're feeling bad for thinking it and feeling it. So if I can admit it to them, then they can admit it to themselves. Mm-hmm. I love my baby. I love her. She's wonderful. And she's an asshole sometimes. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't like me all the time either. And that's okay. Yep. That's totally okay. It's the way it should be. So,
real deal there.
Right. She and I just had a conversation last night about that. So yeah, it's okay. And then like you throw in a pandemic
Mm-hmm.
and what the fuck? Like, it, what do you say to that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if we didn't learn about that in school because it's not happened to
Right.
anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I hate when people start society, whatever media starts using words and they just use it over and over and over and over, like unprecedented, it like skin crawl. But
Mm-hmm.
there is no other word to describe what the pandemic was.
Yeah.
And I was high risk. My mother-in-law was high risk. Maisie was 3, my daughter, she was
Oh,
3. Yeah, she had just started preschool. We had to pull her out, obviously. And there was just a lot of stuff going on. And I had to still work full time because my clients were also obviously going through it.
right.
And it was a shit show, to be perfectly honest. There
It sounds like it
were,
wreaks some havoc.
yeah. And I was
Mhm.
thinking about what we were going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when was that? Oh, it's 2004. What, 24? What? That was 4 years ago?
Mhm.
That it seems like a lifetime ago.
It really does.
And it really wasn't. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was, yeah, it wasn't. So, self-care, because we were all home in
Yeah.
the same space, really, really required a lot of intentional planning
For
and
sure.
whatnot. So we didn't all lose our minds every day, just part of the time.
Yeah.
So that's another big space.
Mm-hmm.
And then when things kind of settled down a little bit, I was at a conference in Nashville and just feeling very imposter syndrome, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you were there, but um, the last day, I'm just kind of like shrinking in my seat, like every day, I'm getting a little
Mm-hmm.
shorter, being like, I don't have a multi-million-dollar practice. I it's just me. I don't have 50 clinicians under me,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I'm like, what am I doing here? And somebody stood up and she's like, everybody has a place at this playground. Everyone has their own unique piece in all of this.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I'm kind of getting chills thinking about it because that was when I was like, okay, I want to focus on therapists and I want to focus on therapist moms
Mm-hmm.
specifically, not to exclude anyone
Right.
because everyone is welcome, but
Mm-hmm.
specifically therapist moms. We give so much at the office and then we come home. And I don't know about you. I love living 7 minutes from my office. And that commute is not long enough for me
Yeah.
to like
Decompress.
compress and process my day,
Mm-hmm.
let alone make a phone call, whatever. And so there's no break.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't get a break. And then I'm expected to come home and parent my very, very spicy 7-year-old who also has some neurodivergent stuff and
Mm-hmm.
my husband. It's a
Let's
lot.
sprinkle all that in.
Right?
Yep.
And then I'm supposed to somewhere in there, like, eat well and exercise. What? I don't know how many hours that you have in your day, but I only have 24, and that's not enough.
Right. And a big
It's
chunk of that is hopefully spent sleeping
right,
and
exactly.
working. There's not much left over.
No, there's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just figured if I'm feeling that, I can't be the only one.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then obviously during the pandemic, like things got real lonely real fast because everybody's away. I worked at home forever. And I did have my own office for a little while. And then I got tired of that. I'm like, I need some peeps. So I'm like, I want some people around me, even if like we don't talk a lot, whatever. I just need other clinicians around me. So I have a collective, and I've had it for a year and a half. It's
Oh,
wonderful. It's great.
wow.
Yeah, it's really great. And they're all, well, most of them are moms, and
Mm-hmm.
they, self care is important to them too. But I really started the whole Theramama thing again We need it. We need it. We need to know that
Yeah.
there are other people who also don't always like motherhood, and they
Mhm,
sometimes want to go have a drink, or I had a couple retreats last year
mhm.
because that's super fun. And I mean, honestly, very selfishly, all of this stuff is stuff that I want to do. And I just hope somebody else wants to do it too. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, I totally want to go paint some pottery, and like four other people come with me, and it's fabulous. So, yeah, so it's pretty fun. I enjoy it. It's great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so helpful.
That
So
was a
there were
long
definitely
story.
different points there that kind of built off of one another.
Yeah.
But general theme and what I'm hearing is that it became so clear
Hmm.
that in order for us to do anything well, whether that's being a mom or whether that's the work that you're doing or whether
Yeah.
that's being a partner or a friend or whatever it is,
Yeah.
we can't lose sight of ourselves. And there
Agreed.
were some situations that almost kind of forced that upon you, it seems.
Oh,
But
yeah.
even when the world kind of settled back down again in all of those different scenarios, it
Hmm.
doesn't sound like you allowed yourself to go back to those old habits. You not only wanted to kind of make that change for yourself,
Yeah.
but you also wanted to help other people.
Yeah.
So, how did that part all begin? So, you got that focal point, you wanted to focus on moms who were
Mhm.
therapists, and then where did it evolve from there?
I don't know. I think it was just like, okay, it's safe for us to like be with other people again.
Right.
And I think it was really like just kind of trying to figure out all the things that were going on with our daughter.
Mhm.
And she just has really big emotions, and she triggers me a lot. And I'm like, to be perfectly honest, I didn't want to be at home a whole lot.
Mhm.
So, you know, again, I can't be the only one who goes through that. And,
Agreed.
so yeah, I needed to find the other people that also felt that way, and make sure that we all felt safe talking about stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I do a little, probably a little bit of like business coaching.
Yeah.
And you and I both know Laura Long
Mhm.
and our the queen. And so she has helped my practice so
Yeah.
much. And I see other people, like even the women that are in my collective, I'm like, oh, you don't have to work so hard if you would
Mhm.
just do profit first, or some of that stuff. So I try and sprinkle in a little bit of, like education, and like, hey, you don't need to do it that way. Try
Right.
this. So a little bit of coaching, a little bit of um whatever
Mhm.
goes. Honestly, it's just really, we do a lot of stuff.
So I can only imagine what this has done, but I would love to hear from you as you started to be more real and raw and honest about your own experiences.
Hmm.
And then you start connecting with other people and kind of
Hmm.
creating this forum for people to share and be
Hmm.
open. What did you find once you opened that door?
Ooh, that's interesting. That's a really interesting question. I It's kind of like a situation where you can't go back,
Hmm.
and you don't want to go back. Like
Right.
you're finally like just who you want to be and need to be. And I see it in with my clients. Like they come back every week, and like they're getting things out of our sessions, and they tell me things. They send me TikToks, they send me memes. I'm like, okay, they're getting this. It's okay. It's okay for me. And I tell them in a consultation, like, my favorite word is fuck. If you do not like that, that is totally fine, but I'm not the therapist for you. And every one of them is like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm totally fine with that." I'm like, "Great, you're my person." So, and those are the people, yes, there are days I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to go to the office. I don't want to work today." I'm like, "Oh, but I get to see Julia today."
Yeah.
And those are my ideal clients, and those are the people that get me going, and I enjoy working with them. Same with
Hmm.
my Theramamas. I get to have coffee with them tomorrow, or whatever, or we're going to go to happy hour next week, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
That is, people are responding to it, and they're also feeling okay to be who they are.
Right.
And that's huge for me,
Hmm.
because for so long I was like, can I say a bad word in my sessions? Like, can I tell
It sounds
them?
like once you did, the floodgates opened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, Laura was a huge part of that. I'm like, oh, she said badass. Oh, she said fuck. Okay, it is okay. There is an audience for that. There are people that are okay with that. And like, yeah, I mean, I've seen other therapists, we talk about that and what we did and didn't learn in grad school and how
Yes.
that impacts us as therapists now and what we want to do and what we are told we shouldn't do and all that gross stuff.
Oh,
So,
I love it.
yeah.
So I definitely want to talk about the Theramamas. But before we do that, I'm very curious about this collective.
Yeah.
So my understanding of that, are you all coming together as independent practitioners, kind of sharing some resources or sharing a space?
Yes.
How does that work?
Yes. So all of us have our individual businesses. I don't manage anyone. They just rent space from me. We do some consultation, stuff like that. We will sometimes have a happy hour after hours.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fun. It's a good time.
That's wonderful. Okay, so you got that.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell us how the Theramamas came about. So for those that are listening that aren't familiar.
Like the Theramama, like
you have your group on Facebook, and then you were saying that you also have, it sounds like you have some locally that you get together with.
Yes. And I'm hoping like there are, and as you know, like you and I have met because we went on a retreat and like just that kind of collective, like, oh, okay, like we're all in the same space wanting to do the same thing, like instant friendship, and that's also how Theramamas are, and it's great. So I like want to go to like all the states where they all are and like get together with them, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. So
wow, and you're pretty centralized, so that could work well.
Yeah, in Missouri, so I can really go anywhere. So yeah,
I love that. And then I've seen a lot of other really creative pursuits that you've got going on. So I've seen a workbook, and then you were starting to tell me about some other stuff you have going on. So how has this evolved?
I don't know. Stuff just like pops in my head. I'm like,
you run with it.
Yeah, let's do that. Why not? Yeah, I have like 800 things going all the time. And yes, so yeah.
So my biggest question for you would be, with this being something that has been a focal point for you on your journey, and now knowing a little bit more about it, I'm sure that it's not necessarily something that you're always perfect at. I mean, I think that we all really strive to incorporate that in our lives. But so I would think that you probably have some things that you found that have really worked well. And I'm sure self-care will evolve at different phases in your life. But what are maybe some of the non-negotiables for you that you've implemented that have been really pivotal?
So it's funny you say about that perfectionism, because I'm a huge perfectionist. So like all of this stuff it can be really difficult. Like earlier this week, I was having a moment. But it's also good for me to grow through that and to use that to move forward. So some of my non-negotiables are, my husband and my daughter do Taekwondo twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays. And I usually stay home. So I have like an hour to myself.
Love it.
And Maisie just a few minutes ago, she's like, Mom, come with us. Come watch me. I'm like, no, sorry. And I will go once in a while, but like I need this time to myself,
But it's by choice rather than obligation. And you know you have that space, which is so nice.
Yeah, exactly. And another non-negotiable I have is I think it was 21, a girlfriend and I, we needed to get away from our family. And so she's a teacher. So during her spring break, we take a girls' weekend. So we're getting ready to go on our fourth one. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I also have cut down my caseload a little bit. So I have some additional days that I'm not seeing clients that I can still work on some of these projects, do my Theramama meetups and stuff like that. So
I think that's such a key piece that a lot of us overlook, is we really have to put that time in the schedule for this stuff, because it's so easy for it to get filled in with everything else. or for us to just add it on top of everything else. And it's like, you got to carve out time just for this.
Totally. I mean, yeah, my calendar never looks great. It sounds like it's great having those 2 days. I do often overfill them, but there are times I'm like, okay, I got to stop this.
Right.
My other non-negotiable that I forgot to mention, my own therapist.
Yeah. Oh, such a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, do we really have any right to be conducting something that we have not experienced ourselves? Come on now.
That's hilarious because when I was in undergrad, I took a counseling class, just like an intro or whatever. And I was like, what do you mean this other class has to go to therapy? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't get it. I kind of argued about it. And then when I came to St. Louis for grad school, I started seeing a therapist. I was like, oh, okay. That's why they do that. Yeah. And I've actually had a couple of people come to me as part of their class assignment. And I'm like, and I always tell them that story. I'm like, naive me. I didn't know.
Yeah. Learned.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's wonderful. So what about any daily non-negotiables? Are there anything that you incorporate into your regular schedule? Like people talk about their morning routine, and then we were talking about how your ride home is not necessarily enough to decompress. So what are things you incorporate day to day?
Coffee. Coffee. And I usually wait until I get to the office. So it's kind of a treat.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the first one there. So it's nice and quiet. Sometimes I will do some yoga stuff in the morning, just kind of depending on my caseload. I always take a break for lunch. Whether I'm eating lunch or not, doesn't matter.
Right.
I always take a break for lunch, and it's on my calendar. My friend Adrienne never puts it on her calendar, and she always ends up working through her lunch. I think she started doing that this year. So yay.
Love it. Oh my goodness. So what is your process? So if you're working with someone that is really looking to make this more of a priority in their life, is there any set process that you go through to kind of evaluate where they're at? Where's an area in need of improvement? What are some things that they can try?
So I recently, along with my workbook, I recently I'm in the process of releasing a course that goes through kind of that process. And what I have discovered in kind of working through that and pulling my Theramama group is a lot of us don't think that we actually really deserve to have that time, to take that time for various reasons. And so that's the starting point of that course. And it doesn't follow, the course doesn't follow the workbook. It's they're kind of complementary to each other. But I think that starting point of do I really feel like I deserve to take that time? There's so much shame from so many places that.
I'm so glad that you start there, because you can be doing all of this great work and have all these phenomenal suggestions, but then that's going to sabotage it if we don't work on that first.
Yeah. And that I've had a lot of conversations. I just had one today about how many of your kids' sporting events do you need to want to have to go to?
Right.
Some people are going to say, I don't miss any. Okay, that's fine. Totally fine. I have missed a couple because I've been on a retreat or whatever. And there's a yucky part to that. And there's a part to that is no, I need to do this for me, because then when I get home, it's nice to go on a retreat because at least I actually start to miss my family, and they kind of start to miss me.
Right.
And so then we love each other again when I get home.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the appreciation and gratitude that I find comes with any break, travel, distance, perspective.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder. It's cliche, but it's super true. So and
you start from there.
Yeah.
Make sure that guilt is not going to sabotage someone. where does it usually go from there? Not to like give away the course, but like
No, you're
foundational.
great. Then we talk about, you're fun. We talk about the values that go along with that and what
Yes.
are your values. Like if your values are, I'll just go with the same example, that you don't miss a game because your parents never came to a game. Have at it. Great. But then you're going to have to figure out somewhere else to put that self-care while you're adjusting your schedule or whatever, so the
Exactly.
values part. Then we kind of move into, what do we move into? Um, the negative beliefs, the negative self-talk, all that BS. It's so
Mm-hmm.
yucky. Yeah. And just, I I do a lot of mindfulness stuff and
Yeah.
EMDR with my clients, and so I'm a big proponent of like I can twist and turn whatever I want up here and like make it not sound so bad. But
Mm-hmm.
if I put that on paper, that looks really gross.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really encourage, it's so mean, but I'm like, no, you need to write it down because when you see it
Ooh.
in black and white or whatever
Yeah.
color ink you're using, you can't walk away from that. You can't twist that to like be something that it's not. You have to face it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to address that. And so then we kind of
What a
go
great point.
into the making that into a nicer sentence. I talk about not shoulding all over yourself.
Yes.
Should is not allowed in my office.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, my clients will nail me on it, or they're like, "I know I shouldn't say should." I'm like, "You can have one. I'll give you one today," and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Thank you." But
Okay, yes.
they've learned that
Mm-hmm.
should is not. It's not okay. So.
Wow. So if someone's listening and they feel like this is something that's been neglected for
Mhm.
a long time and they don't even know where to start, what is a good starting point?
A good starting point would probably be my website. I
Mm-hmm.
have a bunch of resources and stuff.
Okay, great.
Theramamahaven.com.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have my Etsy shop stuff on there. My self-care circle is the course.
Okay.
My workbook is on there. A way to contact me is on there.
Mm-hmm.
Events and stuff are on there. So getting involved in that.
Awesome. And what do you have coming up?
You're the first person to share this.
Love it.
It's not even like completely finished yet. So,
Wow.
locally in April, I have a small trial symposium, the art of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to do some fun things. It's just a day long thing. And then in October, that's the one that I'm working on, and just signed up my last speaker that we both know.
Oh, wow.
How long?
Woohoo! Go
So
you.
excited. I'm so
That's
excited.
awesome.
Yeah, so that will be in St. Louis. That will be 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
October 4th and 5th. And I'll give you the link for it.
I
But I'm super
appreciate it.
excited. It's going to be awesome. It's called Radiant Resilience,
Mm-hmm.
Empowering Therapist Moms. And again, like kind of making self-care and balance the focal point of your personal life, your professional life, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the name of the game.
I love it. Oh, well, I can't thank you enough for coming
Thank
on
you
the
for
show,
having me.
sharing more about what contributed to all of this for you, how you're incorporating it, how you're helping people to incorporate it, and really how you've kind of found your niche. So this is exciting stuff coming up. We'll definitely make sure to include everything to make it easy for
Awesome.
people to just point and click. And I wish you the best of luck with this event
Awesome.
and
Thank
look
you
forward
so
to seeing
much.
what's to come.
I hope to see you and other people at the symposium in October. So I'm
Love it.
hoping to make it a yearly thing. So
Oh, awesome. Well, it sounds like from what I'm hearing, if you put your mind to something, it's going to happen. So
I do my best. Yeah. Yeah. I do my best. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, honey.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.